if Drake May can actually pull the heroics to win this game and be talented enough to say, hey, Kayshon Boutte, you're going to go down and you're going to beat Derek Stingley in man-on-man coverage, then we should give him the Hall of Fame. Like, we should put him in the Hall of Fame, like, right now. Like, screw this MVP stuff. Like,
hello and welcome to Football 301. I'm your host, Nate Tice. The Divisional Round. We are down to the Elite Eight of the 2025 NFL season. We're going to preview those 4 games, deep dives. I mean, more or less, we get lost in the sauce every week, but it's pretty easy which games we're going to get lost in the sauce with. The 4 that we're going to talk about, and joining me to do that, like every Thursday, in studio again with working Verizon Wireless, I think maybe now, but my guy, Charles McDonald. How you doing, Chuck? How you dealing with the blackout over there on the East Coast with your Verizon Wireless?
It was no different than the other day because unfortunately my phone still connects to Wi-Fi. I was like, man, I used to like in college back in the day, like when I would have a weekend that was a little too rowdy and I lost my phone, and there's like this 2 or 3 day span where nobody can get in touch with you. It's kind of nice, but didn't get to experience that quite yesterday. So business as usual, although apparently my mom did try to call me a few times yesterday. I didn't see it. So sorry, Mom.
Hopefully she didn't put out an alert or something.
No, she's fine. She was just like, why aren't you picking up? I was like, I'm on SOS. That's why.
As someone that's had, I had a history of losing phones, college and post-college. There's a craps table at Mandalay Bay that probably has my phone. There's a couple bars, you know, there's some phones and credit cards left at some bars over the years, but not lately. Not since I've become a family man. This phone now it's cracked and ragged. So yeah, that's how things change as opposed to getting a new one every year, every 9 months, how it feels. But like I said before, we're previewing the divisional round today. 4 very fun games that we're going to get into. But before that, to kind of get us going with the head coaching hires, maybe the first big domino to fall. John Harbaugh, former head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, hired as the head coach of the New York Football Giants, set to earn a lot of money, Charles McDonald. A lot of money. It's a whole new world, especially for a guy that doesn't call plays, but nearly $100 million over 5 years. That's what, 7, 8, that's 9-figure deal. Whew. That's NBA role player money. I mean, honestly, this didn't really surprise me. I talked out with Matt earlier this week, and every step of John Harbaugh's trip to New York was like documented. Like every source was fine. They had this for lunch. So-and-so showed up for lunch. Tom Coughlin called. Jaxson Dart met with him. I was like, okay, Harbaugh's going to the Giants. It's like, I can just, all right, let's put this one in Sharpie. Okay, this one's making sense. Bring it on. It seems Todd Monken, an offensive coordinator, a hire I really like. Actually, I think that actually fits Dart's skill set, and we can see what they can get more out of Dart. But just quick thoughts before we get into our preview of Harbaugh going to the Giants, Chuck.
I mean, it's a strong hire. I mean, I guess I was laughing along with you guys because I was like, man, like every single aspect of this, like, you know, fully documented just about every single day. But I think it's a smart move for Harbaugh because. Well, you think Joe Schoen's? You think you have to listen to Joe Schoen when you're John Harbaugh when you get to the Giants? You don't have to listen to him. You can do whatever you want. Like
my contract says 5 years. Yours says 1.
Yours says day to day, pal. It might say day to day depending on how these next couple of weeks go and how we get along. So, I mean, because I think it's funny
he's
that
an at-will employee.
Basically, because Joe Schoen was put in charge of the search, and he got the one guy that could get him out of his job if they don't get along. But so I'm interested to see how like that next year goes and how much the team improved. Because I think this is like an interesting test case. I think, especially now that Mike Tomlin looks like he's going on the TV, just like how repeatable is the old like the institution that John Harbaugh built in Baltimore. Like, how repeatable is that in New York? Because I think, you know, there's questions to have every time you're talking about a guy who's not a play calling coach, but his staffs for 20 years have been pretty strong, you know, like even this last little stint with Zach Orr turned into a fine defensive coordinator when it's all said and done. So you should at least be able to trust him to get like the staff hires right. Bringing Todd Monken is great. And now it's just, you know, if Jaxson Dart is actually good enough to develop to that next step, then like you might have something cooking here. But even without that, like the framework should work here because it's just proven. And I think that for a guy who hasn't called plays, this is about as proven as he gets.
Yeah. A leader of men is what you're going for here. A guy that can steady the ship, get the most out of it. And that's what he's done with the Ravens. You have frustrations with player development. You can have frustrations with, maybe sacrificing leads in the second half. I get that. Ravens have been very relevant for a long time with Joe Flacco, kind of two stints with Joe Flacco, like early Joe Flacco and then the end of Joe Flacco before they drafted Lamar. And then basically every year with Lamar, they've just been a very competent franchise. Mid 2010s, they had a little dip there as they kind of realized how much they could get out of Flacco and the rest of that offense. But that's what's interesting. Harbaugh has all the respect in the world. Both Harbaugh brothers do for me. I mean, true football guys and really just they love the game, all that stuff. Sons of a coach. And how I look at all of it is like, yeah, I don't think being a play caller is end all be all. But like I always think of that as the feather in the cap or kind of the cherry on top. If you're looking at a hire or like kind of selling point. Well, I think having the guy that can maybe step away with a very complicated game for a team that honestly needs somebody to maybe just take a step back and just kind of like, all right, let's just get us all above board. Let's get a play caller on offense that's not just a risky whatever guy, a play caller on defense that's not a young, so a lot of proven talent. Because that was the thing with Harbaugh was not only he was going to command a big salary, which he got nearly $20 million a year, but also he commanded a big assistant pool. And I've mentioned this a few times, just talking about Packers fans and laughing at them. Our buddy Justice Mosqueda had a great article on that for Acme Packing Company about the Packers assistant coaches stuff. But you can use that to kind of look at a lot of teams. Like the Rams don't pay a ton for their assistants, but they're very creative. Sean McVay's tree is kind of vast. It seems like he really scouts opposing coaches or other coaches that he might want to bring on. Both Packers hire their buddies. That's kind of how it goes there. Baltimore, it was like whatever you need. Some of it was your buddies. Some of it was, okay, so there's Greg Roman, but then there's also Todd Monken, who, to my knowledge, doesn't have any ties to the Harbaughs other than he's from a coaching family as well. Maybe that is a connection. I don't know. But also, look at the defense coordinators he's hired over the years. Like there's some connections, some not. When he benched Cam Cameron to go on the Super Bowl run during that Flacco year, remember that? That was totally like, hey, that was the biggest decision of his kind of coaching career for a long time, for probably a decade. I mean, obviously they won Super Bowl, that makes matters, but he's willing to go outside of his tree, even if he does like to stay onto that Harbaugh tree, which I like. I think that this brings confidence. It gives you an excuse that you have confidence too. Like as far as if you're an owner and going like, hey, look, it's like what the Broncos did with Sean Payton. All right, stop yelling at us about Nathaniel Hackett. Look what we got. We got this guy. All right, just stop yelling at me. Stop yelling at me. Like that's kind of just what it seems like when you hire these guys. It's like we're just taking those cards out of the media, kind of or people that are the fans that want to yell at you about it. But I don't know. I like this. It makes sense to me. I also think I really do like the Monken hire for Dart. I think Dart has a lot to prove as a passer, but at least his running gives you some floor. He's got to, start taking care of his body and everything. But maybe I think Monken kind of has that hybrid style of being a lot of pro to his offense, but also understands how to run his quarterbacks, Stetson Bennett, and then Lamar, of course. But kind of, I think that's perfect for Dart if you want to try to really develop Dart. But after this year, I think anything's on the table. So, I like this for them. It also felt like the big domino because there was a lot of rumors that whoever interviewed Harbaugh, if they didn't get him, like Stefanski is their number 2. So that's like the Falcons, a couple other teams that were really looking at him. So yeah, very, very curious where kind of what other dominoes start to fall now.
So am I. I'm rooting for Stefanski Falcons. That's been my number 1 the whole time. So
is that yours?
That's what
I was curious.
That's what I've wanted the whole time. Let's get Stefanski and Arch.
I like it.
Blow out 2026 and get a quarterback next year.
Imagine Arch with the Falcons. That feels so weird. Or I mean,
they're appropriate at the same time.
I've been really starting to look because people are asking me. Dante Moore went back to school. They're like, so is the 2027 class good? I'm like, I mean, I had Arch and Lenore Sellers above Dante Moore, and they're in that class. I think Arch is a bona fide number 1. I think Sellers is a lottery pick. I mean, there's a few other guys that are interesting as well. Next year's class might be interesting, 2027. But we have a lot of time before we get that. We got to get through this freaking draft class. We got to get through these playoff games. So we'll get to the first one. This is Saturday. early afternoon, at least West Coast time, 4:30 Eastern. We got the Bills and the Broncos. The Bills 12-5 playing at the Broncos 14-3, who are the number one seed. The Broncos are slight favorites, 1.5 at Mile High. Over under in this game is 46. We're going to start with when the road team Bills have the ball, the 6th seed, going against this Broncos defense that's one of the better units in the NFL. And this is the Haas fight of the week. So the Bills have this guy named Josh Allen, and they also have a really good run game. That's my summary of the Bills, where there's going to be more that we're going to get into. But going against a Broncos defense that throughout the year has been top 4, top 5, fallen off slightly maybe in the second half of the year, but still a legit top 8 unit in any way that you look at it. Run the ball, or run against the run defense, pass defense, pressure that they can create. They can play man coverage with their amazing corners that they have and DBs that they have. But when you're watching this side of the ball, Chuck, this Haas fight, what are you focusing on? I think which should be a really fun kind of battle between Josh Allen and this defense.
Did you see the interaction that Sean Payton had with the reporter the other day? Maybe it was yesterday.
Yeah, what was that?
Before. I don't know. It was strange, but I think that it was kind of a fair question on behalf of the reporter, because this is exactly how you lost to Baltimore and Buffalo last year, where he asked basically Dre Greenlaw, who's off injured, basically since he tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl, hasn't quite been the same player. He's coming back this week for the game, and a reporter asked him basically about Dre Greenlaw's ability to play downhill and attack downhill. And Sean said, quote, "You want him to attack downhill? Like, what do you know about attacking downhill in the run game? You don't know." Okay, well, first of all, he's your middle linebacker. And you got absolutely stampeded. Right. That's not a strange question to ask if your middle linebacker is healthy enough to play downhill against a team that opened your mouth, shoved a steel-toed boot in your mouth, and kept kicking you in the face last year over and over and over again. That's a fair question, because why can't that happen this year? Statistically, over the back half of the season, the defense has not been as strong as they were last year. And it's not like when you look at the collection of players that they have, this is some infallible, like, monster run defense that can stop any team. Like, no, like you have to answer that question if you want to be able to kind of sit up there and assert yourself like that, because you got railroaded last year twice by two of the best rushing games in the league. Now, Buffalo is in a precarious spot because I can't believe Tyrell Shavers played that game with a torn ACL. He played about as many snaps with a torn ACL. He was, I think it was like 22 snaps with a torn ACL, 27 without. So they're down to 3 wide receivers for this game. Yep. That's where it gets kind of tough, because now you're predictable, because you kind of have to run the ball in this situation. Because what are you going to do? You're going to drop back and throw with 3 receivers, like, it just gas them. Here, we're going to play 100% of snaps. You guys are just going to run all over the field. You're not going to get any breaks, and you're going to have Pat Surtain and those guys like breathing down your neck. That's a tough ask. Yeah. But I do think that there is room for Buffalo just to kind of like assert their size and just kind of get down the field and keep Josh clean. Because I thought Josh, even after he got hurt last week against Jacksonville, you saw he was kind of like, a little beleaguered. Still put up a really strong performance. It has some big time throws that push them over the edge against Jacksonville. I think you're probably going to need maybe a little bit more conservative game plan, because Denver's defense is just the secondary talent can be overwhelming, especially compared to how they're constructed right now with these injuries. But man, if I'm Buffalo, I'm trying to do the same exact thing we did last year. We're going to try to get big. We're going to try to steamroll you, run you over, and then just keep life as easy as we can for those wide receivers, because they're so thin right now.
Yeah, and the receiver injuries. Shavers has turned into like a fun little player too, and that's what kind of really he's a beast. But it just kind of stinks. I actually was starting to go like, man, they can remake this receiver group. They got Shavers could start for him. He kind of did the second half of the year. That the 3 receiver thing is interesting, because that's even when I looked, I was like, okay, they're probably, this is what's been nice about the Bills this year. This is going to kind of continue with even the Rams, is these teams that make runs every year or make the playoffs every year. They kind of learn, all right, you have to pivot. You have to, or the ability to pivot. And again, you don't have to be the best of the best at certain things. You just have to be above a certain threshold. I've kind of always likened it to like, some 3-point shooting where it's like, you don't have to be shooting like Steph Curry and shooting over 40%. But if you make 34%, okay, like we still have to like guard that guy and get a hand out there. That's kind of just exactly how playoff football is, where it's just like, all right, we know you're going to run the ball. All right, if you're really good out of 11 personnel, we're going to try and force you to go big bodies. If we're good at big bodies, we'll try and get you more receivers on the field. But I'm kind of devolving my point here. But anyways, so like you stated, like they're probably going to go more tight end looks, which is what the Bills have been trying to do over the last few years. Jackson Hawes and Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. They got these 3 flavors. Reggie Gilliam, who's a fullback / tight end for them, more fullback this year. But I was like, okay, is that like a weakness for the Broncos? Because that's like the natural thread to pull at. Not really. Since week 10 against plays with 2 or fewer receivers, they're 5th in yards per play, 1st in success rate, 3rd in EPA, 3rd in rushing success rate, 4th in explosive plays. Like it was like, oh, okay, never mind. So that wasn't really. But what you're saying though is that I do think if you watch the Packers game, if you watch the Jags game a little bit, the other times that teams have gotten after this defense is when they just kind of road grade you. Then they say, you're going to do all the movement stuff. You'll catch us a couple times, but we're going to just be able to go under center and just run it on you. And that's what the Bills do. So like the Bills run game doesn't change that much, even with the receivers out. Shavers does open up a lot when they go 11 personnel and they want to do certain things, but they can do it out multi-tight end looks. So they have this ability to pivot, but the fact that they maybe just are losing one tool in the toolkit is a little tough when you're going against a defense like this. Like you said, they have all those DBs with the Broncos, PS2 and stuff. That's another thing. It's like, all right, who guards the tight ends? If you're going to go in 2 tight end looks, like Dalton Kincaid against McMillan isn't that big of an advantage to me. Like Dalton Kincaid against a linebacker or a bad slot or a bad safety, great matchup. And that's how the Bills use him. He's the most explosive tight end in the game right now. But when you're going against like actually a good slot, it's kind of a wash to me. It's not like a true matchup that you can go after. So to me, it seems like it's like Josh Allen shot plays and running the ball and try and muck it up, and hopefully your defense does enough. Like it feels weird to say that about an offense that's had a top 5 run game the whole year, maybe even top 3. I think it's like them, the Bears, and the Rams basically have the best run games this year. So I think that's kind of what they have to play is like just, hey, really have an expansive run game, have some play action off that, have some under center dropbacks. And then once we get the 3rd down, all right, Josh Allen, go do something funny. Go do your magic, buddy. And hopefully we keep it to a lot of 3rd and 5s and fewer. So that just kind of feels like the game plan, like kind of muck it up, kind of like they did last week. Kind of just stay alive. Josh, go do something. Stay alive. Josh, be a monster. Like, and I don't think that's the worst game plan for them.
Yeah, I went back to last year's Denver's defense because even like when you look at the just like the stats for last year, because of 2024, even against just the 2 wide receiver sets, it's all green. So I was like, man, like they're. But then I watched, I remember like I watched Baltimore and Buffalo do what they did, and so like I went back and just like skimmed through some of the big plays. Basically, like it was just physically too much for them, like in the box. Like they just couldn't hang. I don't know if it was just like literal just weights to weights. We cannot sit here and hold up against these offensive linemen because guys that I think on Baltimore's offensive line that you could definitely stand to improve upon. They're basically just falling over and leaning on them, getting out the way, and then there's Derrick Henry's off. There's Deion Dawkins who's leaning on Zach Allen, and then James Cook is bouncing off right behind it for a 60-yard run or whatever. So that part I don't. That's where I guess I get a little worried because like Buffalo's offensive line is so big, bro. Like Spencer Brown at right tackle, Deion Dawkins, Cyrus Torrance, like those guys are all like 320 plus pounds, and they hit too. So that's what Denver needs to come back to because I think they obviously have the personnel to be the best defense in the league. And I still find it strange, like going back and watching those games, like no, like they really just got pushed straight out the paint. Like there wasn't anything fancy going on. They just got their ass beat. Like is that going to happen again? Because Buffalo's capable of doing it. And quite frankly, Buffalo's rushing numbers are a little bit better this year than they were last year in some of those heavier sets.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we'll see. It's going to be a fascinating game because there's almost like a little psyche element to it, too. Like, all right, this is what happened to you guys last year. You're going to let it happen again? And I hope not, because that was a really boring football game last year.
It was like the first drive by the Broncos. And after that, it was just like, the Bills just like, it was a war of, not even a war of attrition. Nope. It was just kind of like, yeah, okay, we'll just let this one play out because the Bills got this. Yeah, I'm glad, man. I should actually, this is like an interesting thread because I just looked at I just sorted all the games that the Broncos played this year, the defense, and I looked at yards before contact. So this is just a cut and dry way to look at it. But the offenses that got 1 yard or more before contact this year, Cowboys, who won 44-24, or the Broncos won 44-24 that game, but was the Cowboys offensive line made of beef, big offensive line, Booker and Tyler Smith. Like, these guys are big. The Chiefs have a big old line. Like, they really do. Andy Reid doesn't always use them, but they have a big old line. Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey and Kingsley Suamataia is gigantic too on the interior. Bengals in week 4, 1.4 yards before contact. All right, that's another offensive line that actually is very underrated this year. That's like a top 8 run game this year, and they're big and huge. And then we got the Giants in week 7, 1.53. Giants offensive line, very underrated this year, and a good O line this year. Commanders aren't the beefiest. They're a little bit actually they're decent size, but their run game's really cool. Broncos almost lost the game. And then the Packers, 1.8 yards before contact. Big. That's what the Packers always do. They always kind of get the same exact body type. All 5. 6'4", 315 at all 5 spots. Yep. That's the Packers offensive line. But I don't know. That's just an interesting thing. It's a true physics thing. And if you want a defense, the Broncos got some size and they got some tenacity. You got Jones, you got Zach Allen. But again, they move their guys. So if you just got big guys to wad it up, just kind of maybe a physics thing. So
I would say that happened too. Like when you're on a slant step and Zach Allen's big, but even then, as big as he's probably 290. So like if you get caught on a slant step, like underneath your pad, and that guy's pushing you 340, you're gonna get washed 5 gaps down, and then next thing
they wash you out. Yeah.
Right. You could drive a truck through there. So that happened a couple of times too. It's just like, oh, that guy's a lot heavier than me and he's leaning on me and now we're off to the races. But their linebacker plays a little bit better. So Sean, maybe you should answer the question, is Dre healthy enough to attack downhill? Because that was the big problem last year.
Because
and if he's not healthy enough to do that this week, you're going to lose again.
It's worth saying. It's like this Broncos defense is good. It's just that maybe not as invincible as you would maybe think. Like, I would rank the Seahawks and the Texans defense ahead of them. And I feel pretty safe saying that. But it's still very good, very tenacious. Josh Allen's still great against the blitz. The Broncos they'll blitz and they'll do some funky stuff too, but he finds answers. They have some speed at running back, so maybe that's how they attack. Maybe it's a James Cook receiving type game. But I think that's kind of what they're going to – I think it's a lot of jabs from this Bills offense, and then just once in a while Josh Allen does his chaos stuff. Like, that's just how I feel, because I feel like it's more of a team game for the Bills, if that makes sense, just of where they're at right now. But let's get to the other side of the ball, because I think this is super interesting as well. Kind of units that are flawed, I think, but not bad. So it's fun. I like this because this is what playoff football is all about. These are the 2 units that playoff football is all about. It's just like what things get extrapolated, what things get mitigated. Ed Oliver practiced this week for the Bills, which is huge. Ed Oliver is not going to eat a lot of space on the interior. That's why you got Deion Walker now. Your guy, Deion Walker, that friggin' looking good. But Ed Oliver's a gap shooter. He can create some more explosives for the defense. That's how you kind of have to look at him. I have a couple little game plan things I'm excited to talk about, but I'm curious what kind of you looked at on this side of the ball, because the Bills defense hasn't been great against the run. The Jags were able to do whatever they wanted last week. This is how they've been the entire year. They are 30th in EPA or DVOA against the run the back half of the season. And going against the Broncos offense where the run game's picked up and then the passing game can be a little bit volatile. So curious to kind of what threads you pulled out of this side, Chuck.
To me, it's I think if you're looking more like a a long-term, like winning the Super Bowl, or I guess long-term is in like the next few weeks, like winning the Super Bowl approach for Denver. I think it's fair to be a little concerned about like where their run game is, but not this week. Like Buffalo's rush defense is so bad that it's like it's such a clear picture on what you can do, on what you should do if you just don't mess up like a couple first downs here or there and get behind the sticks. Because I think that's like really the only point like where I see, unless Sean Payton's way overthinking this, the only point I really see Denver's offense getting in trouble. It's like if you struggle on first and second down, and now we got Bo dropping back on third down a bunch. And while he's a better player than he was for this game last year, I still don't think that that's probably how you want to end up attacking his defense, and really how they don't want to play stylistically at all, even though he did lead the league in passing attempts. I just think like when you look at Buffalo's defense, they're so bad against the run. They're so bad that it almost becomes like, why would you not just match it if you could? And as long as like your defense can play ball on the other side and keep Josh Allen at bay, which Denver's defense is talented enough, even though they did struggle last year. Man, like just pound the rock. Like, well, I'm not going to give Bo Nix a chance to just drop back against Sean McDermott in the playoffs because I thought the Bills' pass defense, they had some moments last week where they looked a little bit more coordinated than they had the other course of the season. You got Tre'Davious White, like I don't know what's gotten into him, but
oh my god,
that was like I don't know what that was. That was fun. A little turn back the clock today.
Awesome.
Yeah, so maybe you don't want to be dropping back on that in a postseason game, especially for a team that has been in so many playoff games over the past few years. Just keep it simple, mash it. That's where Buffalo needs to like restart their defensive rebuild. Like we got to get stout up front because they're just not right now.
No, that's where I went, and also you just don't want to you want to avoid any Nick spiraling moments. The Broncos, since week 10, they're 19th in rushing DVOA from FTN, 6th in rushing success rate. But that kind of shows maybe not going against the greatest defenses. DVOA accounts for opponents, right? Strength of opponents. And at the same period, the Bills defense is 19th in rushing success rate and 30th in DVOA. Like I said before, just stay ahead of the chains. Stay patient. Stay ahead of the chains. I think the Bills are trying to muck this up. They're trying to bait you. McDermott wants to get you in passing downs, which I'll talk about in a sec. And I think you have run game answers against this defense. Like you said, it's not a great run defense. The Jags were able to attack outside over and over and over because how Joey Bosa plays, because of just the strength of this Bills defense, how the linebackers, you can wad them up using jet motion. It's a lot of stuff the Jags did that the Bills are going to be able to just go, or that the Broncos are going to be able to go, oh, okay, we'll just use that. Like they did, it's stuff that Sean Payton does anyway. Some under center runs, some jet motion stuff. He likes to do pin pulls like the Jags did last week. So it's a lot of stuff that translates to their game. Do the Bills shore it up? I don't know. It's been the whole half of a season, basically the whole season. They've been pretty bad against the run. Ed Oliver does help, but he's not. I'm not getting in prime. I'm not getting our guy Jonathan Hankins in there or Tier Tart. Like Ed Oliver is not that type of player. He's gonna be better on passing downs, and he might create one or two kind of TFL moments, which is big in the game like this. You want to keep him behind the sticks, but he's not the guy that's going to down after down just eat blocks, and just really help it out. Just again makes it more boom bust. But the one thing I was curious, there's a couple things I'm curious about. McDermott last week had a great game plan. I do think that some of it got kind of overrated because if you look at the Jags stats and you rewatch that game, it was like Trevor was pretty dang good last week. I know people think I'm biased, but he was. And it was the last pick though I wanted to talk about was they ran an odd mirror front, which is 3 down, and then mirror, which is you're going to have 2 linebackers or 2 defenders. One will take the back, and then whoever doesn't take the back is going to be a spy. He's going to be a QB spy. And you do the 3 down front, which is odd. If it's a 4 down front, it's even. But an odd, what they'll do is let the DNs kind of just they have 2-way lanes to rush. They don't have to be gap sound. So because of that, you can flush a quarterback out of the pocket and kind of bait him into fool's gold, thinking that, oh, okay, it's man coverage. I'm out of the pocket. I can run this or I can create something. And then here comes the mirror guy, usually a fast defender. They used to have Matt Milano do it. Just run and chase down the quarterback. And McDermott pulls this out in big games all the time. I was writing about this. Sorry, Joey, did not finish the article before we started recording. Joey, our editor. But the Bills have deployed it on 5 or more snaps. Basically, since 2022, they started doing this. 5 or more snaps several times. 9 snaps in week 6 against Mahomes in 2022. And if anyone remembers, that's when Milano forced a pick, I believe. It was at Arrowhead. At least a half dozen snaps in matchups against Lamar Jackson, 8 snaps against him in the last year's playoffs, 6 snaps against the Bengals in the playoffs the year before that. And even last year, they did 5 snaps against Bo Nix in the playoffs because Bo Nix likes to break, contain, and create outside the pocket. And even the most that Sean McDermott's ever dropped 8 into coverage. So if you're doing odd mirror, that's essentially you're dropping 8. It's like dropping 7.5 and rushing 3.5. They faced in week 10 in 2023. So this is when Russell Wilson was the quarterback. They did it 11 times against Russ, which makes sense because you're trying to bait Russ into breaking contain and then just flush him out because you're trying to make him less dangerous. And that was a Sean Payton offense. So I think they used that a decent amount anytime to get into passing downs. And that's why I said they have to win first down. I thought the Jaguars kept winning on first down. And when they didn't, that's when you got to see some of the Bills stuff and see some of this odd mirror stuff. You run 1 robber behind it or 2 man behind it. I'm not a defensive guy, but I would play more zone against Nix because he's a top 10 quarterback against man. He likes to take his one-on-ones to the outside, usually Cortland Sutton, or he likes to take slot fades, Troy Franklin or somebody else. And then against zone, he's a bottom 10 quarterback. So if you run this kind of mirror with cover 2 behind it, mirror with something like that where he floods zones, could be an interesting little change up in this game. And the other little scheme thing, Alex Forsythe has been the center for the Broncos for the last couple of weeks because of injuries. Or because of the injury they had to their starting center, Luke. Versus the blitz this year, Broncos have been 6th in EPA per dropback, but 23rd in success rate. So is that kind of thing? If you see that, you're okay. So if it's on third down, that means they convert on third down, maybe a couple big plays with Forsythe on the field. So it's only been a couple games. 17th in EPA per dropback, dead last in success rate, 33% success rate, 29th in sack rate, 27th in net yards per attempt against the blitz. Without Forsythe, or when it was their full starters, 6th in EPA per dropback, 16th in success rate, 1st in sack rate. So they go from the bottom 4 in sack rate, and that's what Bo Nix does well. He doesn't take sacks, and to actually taking sacks against the blitz. So that's just, again, playoffs. Any little weakness that other teams think, they're going to just poke at it and pound at it like a velociraptor with the cage. Like that's what they're just going to do over and over. So those are kind of the 2 threads I pulled out. But last thing, Bo Nix versus drop 8. He's faced the second most dropbacks this year. He's 16 to 32, 246 yards, 1 pick. So 50% completion rate, 62.8 QB rating, and 39% success rate. So he hasn't been great against drop 8. So again, 2 weeks in a row, I'm going to bring up drop 8 as a thing on this show, but that's what the playoffs become. It becomes just funky change-ups and knuckleballs by all these defensive coordinators and everything. But that's all my stuff, Chuck. So if you have any more notes to close us out, I'm going to get into predictions.
Yeah, just Buffalo needs to be able to get to it first. You got to be able to get to it.
That's it.
10% explosive rush rate. About 14% of runs are going for 10 yards or more against them this season. So you got to get there first.
That's ridiculous. It's so much.
It's all fun and games when you're rotating all your guys, and then they just walk you right down the field and score a touchdown, you know?
Yep. I think we could sum up this side of the ball being like, who wins first down? Wins this game. Who wins the first down on Broncos offense, Bills defense kind of wins this game. I don't know. That's kind of how I'm looking at it anyways. But final predictions. Broncos, 1.5 point favorites at home at Mile High. What you got, Chuck?
I'm rolling with the Bills here. I don't trust the run defense, but I do trust Josh Allen and the offensive line. And maybe it's recency bias from just watching those games from last year again and watching them get mowed off the field. But a little worried that Denver's defense, especially with Greenlaw coming off another injury, might be a little soft in the interior. If they are, I think they get pounded again. No, I don't think they get blown out again because I think their offense is a little better equipped, and obviously Buffalo's defense is worse. Yeah. But I do think Buffalo takes this game home. And I'm just going to keep going on my bracket because I was 6-0 last week, so I got to stay true to it.
I went 4-2. I had the Jags when it beat the Bills. That one was like the biggest toss-up for me. I'm honestly, I have no note on who I predict in this game. This was just kind of like, I just really want to just kind of like think what I was feeling after we talked about it. I'm going to go with the Bills, but it's not like, oh, I stand on this hard kind of thing. I look at the units. It's a lot of washes to me. There's a lot of things these teams can pick at and a lot of kind of incomplete units. Bills got injuries. It's just not all the way perfect for any unit. I'm going to go with, and I think Sean Payton's a great coach. Vance Joseph is a great coach. I think Sean McDermott's a really good coach. Joe Brady is fine. I'll give him pretty good. But there's not like that true weakness. I can just go like, oh, there's the punk, get him. So I'm going to go with the Bills. It's really a Josh Allen play. That's really it. I'm watching him last week against the Jags. I think he missed one throw. He had one play where he didn't read it right or throw it right against a defense that's really funky. Not the best defense in the world, but really funky.
And he was hurt, too.
I thought he was just playing full participant. He is banged up, too, because he's got, a knee, a finger, a neck, a shoulder.
I would say there was a stretch in that game where it felt like he suffered an injury every single play. I was like, yo, are you all right, man?
3 plays in a row.
Yeah. That's probably 3 plays in a row.
He got hurt, and they ran him. The very next play, he came on the field. I was like, is Brian Dable still on the staff? But all right, we are going to take our first break and come back with a couple more games to preview. See you guys in a sec. We are back getting into the Saturday night game. We're getting to a NFC West three-peat. I don't know what some people have different terms for it, but the third game between the 49ers and Seahawks. Let's just do that. 49ers at Seattle. 6 seed at 1 seed. They faced each other in week 1. The 49ers took that game. They faced each other in week 18. What is this? The Premier League balanced schedule. Week 1, week 18. Seahawks pretty much dominated that game, which we can talk about. But this game is Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. The Seahawks are a touchdown and an extra point favorite. They're 7 points in case you need to know that. Over under is 45, which feels about right. We're going to start when the road team has the ball. The 49ers going against the Seahawks defense, maybe one of the best units left in the playoffs. How you feeling about this game, Chuck? What you focus on this side of the ball?
Oh, man. This is going to be related to my Hail Mary later, but wow. I don't see it for San Francisco this week. I don't, because
I was hoping you had something here because I didn't want to devolve into this.
Nothing's changed in 2 weeks is how I feel.
That's the thing. It wasn't like they faced each other in week 10 and it's like a totally different teams. Yeah, no, I agree.
So unless the 49ers have been able to go back in time and get the offensive line they had when Jim Harbaugh was the head coach, I don't understand what different is supposed to happen here that happened last time, because this is one of those games. Last time it's like you can draw whatever run scheme you want, but at the end of the day, your guys are going to have to be talented enough to block their guys, and they're just not right now. Mm-hmm. Even with Trent Williams back in the fold, it's still it's so overwhelming what Seattle can do, and obviously Mike McDonald deserves all the credit in the world for getting that thing up and running as fast as he could. But dude, their players are just really freaking good at playing defense. Especially in the front seven. I mean, it's just controlled chaos and war, and it feels like especially in the back half of the season, they just felt unblockable, and it kind of culminated in that Week 18 game against the 49ers where they couldn't get a hand on anyone. They couldn't stay in front of people. They weren't stout enough to stay in front of people. And Christian McCaffrey got pummeled, and Brock Purdy had, one of the least effective games of maybe his post contract extension run with the 49ers. He had almost -0.4 EPA per drop back, and they just kind of just savaged them. So I don't really see anything different that would change the idea that, that's what I thought was going to happen last time. That's exactly what happened. And that was only 2 weeks ago. So I guess I'm trying to, that's kind of still where my head's at. And I don't really find what the 49ers did last week against the Eagles, all that convincing. As far as their chances to have a much better performance in this game than they did last time. I do think the defense, deserves a lot of credit for how they played over the past few weeks, just with how depleted they are. But if we're sticking on this side of the ball, I don't know. You're depleted on this side of the ball a little bit too, and you're going against the Monstars, and they whoop your ass 14 days ago. So I don't know.
There's a proof of concept here. Again, I was just like, oh man, I feel like I remember that game. I was like, oh yeah, because it was 2 weeks ago, Nate. I was like looking at my notes for it. I was like, okay, this is how I remembered it anyways. And I did rewatch that game. And the other side of the ball, I do think I have kind of more takeaways on that side from reviewing it, at least. Like this side, like a lot of my original notes from that matchup carried over from what I've seen from the 49ers. And I mean, the Seahawks had a bye, but how I felt about the Seahawks. The 49ers, their run game has improved the second half of the year. The first half of the year, there was bottom 8-ish. And in the second half of the year, kind of top 6, top 7. Not as extremely good as 49ers run games that Shanahan passed, or just Shanahan's passed, not even just the 49ers, but more just pretty good. Good. I'll put it at that. They have the O-line weaknesses, O-line injuries. Trent Williams has been up and down with or has been banged up and all that. But when I looked at this last game, the Seahawks only allowed one successful run the entire game. They didn't allow an explosive. They didn't get a single run stuff, but they only allowed one successful run. I think there was only 10 design runs, so that kind of takes away a little bit of it. But still, a 31% success rate for the for the 49ers in Week 18, and a gotta-have-it game at home. They wanted to get that bye week. Like they were so injured. They wanted to, like, we can talk about Fred Warner coming back. But that's the lowest success rate Shanahan offense has had since 2013 when he was with Washington 2 name changes ago. Fewest rushing yards he's had as a play caller, bottom 10 explosive play rate in the game. He only had 2 explosives in that game. That's what Shanahan offenses are built on. And this is over 300 games including the playoffs. I mentioned this on that recap show we did. Seahawks only missed 3 tackles the entire game. And again, that's what Shanahan offense, everything that the Shanahan offenses are built on. Running the ball, explosive through the air, and making you miss a tackle like something over the middle, and play action on those. Play action, Brock Purdy was 8 of 9 for 38 yards, 1.1 air yards per attempt. They completely snuffed him out on third down. And a lot of those, you can see about Purdy doing kind of the double passes. And he'll do that because he's a creator, and he'll do some jump passes where he's not feeling great and break contain and everything. But in that game, it was because this is where all 22 comes in. Watching it on film, the coverage for the Seahawks was tremendous. It was just, they knew kind of like where the one was. Helps having a Kubiak on the roster as well as on the staff as well. But also Mike McDonald's really good at this. And he's done it against these offenses many of times, is that they take away the primary and then they kind of know where you're going to lean towards. So you'll see these guys like linebackers, not even the stars. I'm talking like Drake Thomas and stuff. They'll be like, okay, all right, I'm moving over here and running with the crosser, but I know this is a high-low, so then I'm going to drift to the high now too. That's just good coaching and good game planning and knowing what the other team's going to do. Their fastballs are. And again, so they took away the play action. They took away the run game. Only allowed them to have 2 explosives, which is this team is built on. Purdy got snuffed out on third down because the coverage was so good. The Seahawks had 4 more dropbacks with 5 different coverages where they had 4 more dropbacks. Cover 1, cover 4, cover 2, cover 3, cover 6. Again, this is the Mike McDonald kaleidoscopic scheme. And that's another way to get after a Shanahan offense, is be unpredictable with the coverages, because so much of their stuff, how they package plays, is based on what coverage you're in. I don't know. I just watched this game and watched this matchup, and it's like, I don't know how much. Now Kittle's hurt too, which was probably your most dangerous weapon. I love Jawan Jennings. I love that. But Kittle is your most dangerous weapon. And you could feel his absence. You feel in the run game. There's plenty of on-off splits. You can watch it just on film or TV, how much he helps, block these edges. But then you watch the Quinyon Mitchell, his second interception in that game last week. That play was designed to go to Jake Tonges, the backup tight end. Or I'm sorry, it was designed to go to Kittle, but Tonges is in because Kittle is hurt. And on that play, they're in 22 personnel. They only have 1 receiver on the field. And they're trying to get Kittle running away from a close split away from the corner. But this is, again, the NFL, and it's a matchup league. That's not Kittle. Your A+ is off the field. Tonjes has actually been a nice, pleasant surprise for this offense. And again, Shanahan gets the most out of his guys. But let's call him a B. But he's going against a first-team All-Pro. And that's, again, why these injuries. Yeah, you can maybe game it up and scheme it up during a week where you're trying to just get through a win. And Mac Jones is starting. But when you go against these elite units, they don't just make you say, oh, that's an unsuccessful play. It's a turnover. it's a big play for the defense. And that, again, it's hard to find any threads where I'm like feeling really good about the 49ers offense. That being said, it's Kyle Shanahan. He's not just going to sit around and be like, oh yeah, I'm good with this. Like, he's going to do something. Juwan Jennings double pass, something to kind of just throw something in there to change this up, because he's probably very aware of what he's getting into too anyways. But any last thoughts? It's a tough matchup for the 49ers offense, even if I do think they will have some moments. But the Seahawks defense is just so freaking good.
Yeah, I'm worried that, with Mike McDonald having a week off plus the recent game, I feel like he might have some diabolical stuff tuned up for them, and their players are just a lot better, a lot healthier. So we'll see.
Shanahan has a lot of advantages against a lot of other coaches, and like McDonald's one of those where it's like, it's not that much. Like, it's it's a little bit, but it's like, McDonald's really good at this stuff. Like, his game plans are just, every time he's gone into these types of matchups where he's going against one of the dudes at play caller, he steps it up too. Ben Johnson, when he was with the Ravens, and Ben Johnson was the Lions, Shanahan before, like, he's going to step it up and crank some stuff up. So I'm very excited to watch how this plays out.
The AFC title game before he left Baltimore, I know they lost, but they held Mahomes without a touchdown for like 2.5 quarters to end the game. They just couldn't close on offense. Yep. So he's got the goods.
And even the few weeks before that, there was the big game where Purdy had the MVP, like touted he was like the favorite. It was Lamar and Purdy. And then they played that like Monday night or Sunday night game. Ravens 49ers did. And I think they forced Purdy to throw 3 picks and everything. I don't know. He's good. He's really good. And these guys have been exposed to a lot of Shanahan offenses. So a lot of the tweaks that they usually throw and change-ups they throw, they kind of know when to sit on them. So let's get to the other side of the ball, because I do think this is interesting. I'll start with rewatching that game. And I know I'm an apologist for Sam Darnold. Seahawks offense would actually look pretty dang good. If you look at this, just the second half, he had a 57% success rate. They had 7.7 net yards per attempt, 0.38 EPA per pass. The run game actually looked pretty good now, and it has for the last second half of the season. It's not great, but it's above board. It's above that kind of 40% threshold that you have to get to, and they can do it. They've achieved that in the second half of the year. I have some thoughts on this game and kind of like the conundrum that the 49ers are in, but I'm curious before I get into it, Chuck, what did you think about this matchup between the Seahawks O and the 49ers D?
I've been pretty impressed, I guess, with what the 49ers defense has been able to accomplish in recent weeks. Not to say that they're good, but I mean, the last time you played, because they're just so depleted. I mean, it's tough at this point. They've lost so many guys, and we were talking like
they're starting
Fred
Eric
Warner.
Kendricks.
I was stunned because I that's one of those guys where like I got a jump scare. I was like, wait. Hold on. Eric Kendricks, like, I remember when he was supposed to be like,
is there another Kendricks brother we don't know about or something?
Right. And now, but the fact that he's playing, like, it says a whole lot. And still, they did play a game where Seattle only scored 13 points. Last week against Philadelphia, they stepped up on the final drive, a little bend don't break, but still they were kind of able to overcome some shortcomings and hold the Eagles to 19 points, which is tough at this point in the season to play, especially on where they are health wise. So I do think that like there is some like reason for praise here for Robert Saleh and the work that they've done, and it kind of shows why he's getting some of these head coaching interviews or why he's going to be requested for them once this is all over. But still don't have enough to win. I don't think they have enough to compensate for what is about to happen on the other side of the ball. Even if you you think you did a decent job, although I agree with you. I thought Sam played a pretty good game last time. And when you start like digging through the numbers, look at the film, like, Seattle, they probably could have scored a little more points than they ultimately did. I don't think the same is true for the other side of the ball, but some yards were left on the field there by the whole team. So the tough part, like when you're in this situation as a defense where you're down Fred Warner, no matter what they say. Like, that's one of those smoke screens. Oh, Fred Warner might play. Man, that's one of those smoke screens that's so ridiculous. Like, it doesn't even throw the team off. You're like, no, he's not going to play. Like, you're wasting your own time by telling us that he's going to play this game. And even if he was going to play, the last time I saw him, his leg was in two pieces. So I'm going to run at him every single play if I can, you know? So if we're just going to keep it above on how people think about these things. Right. He was in the owner's suite,
just a couple weeks ago. He was in the owner's suite. He wasn't even on the sideline. So he didn't say he's going to play. Tell me okay.
Right. Don't tell me he's going to play in this game. It's just so tough. Like, when you're in this state as a defense, like, okay, come out and do it again. And they're not a defense that is going to like force, they're not like a Brian Flores defense where we're going to force the action with a whole bunch of blitzes. They're going to, do what they do. They're going to rush for. They've had some really good performances, like by slot cornerback up and Stout this season. He's had some pretty strong games, but man, like, this is like a unit that could be ready to take off next year. And they've done some good things, but as of now, just like the style they play, how they play the art, man, you got to do it again. And I think that there's a lot of room for Seattle to score a lot more points than they did last time if they come out with a little bit more cohesive plan. Like, I do think it's kind of interesting that Clint Kubiak in his interviews, and no one's really asking the question, a little interested in your offense is hitting the wall back to back in 2 seasons in a row, different spots. And sometimes it feels like you're running now that's what I call Shanahan's greatest hits compilation album instead of like a coherent offense. But for this week, I think that they'll be fine. And I expect them to score a lot more than 13 points than they did last time.
Yeah, I think there's at least one missed field goal too, but even that's 16. They stalled in the red zone, but I agree. It wasn't like the greatest performance I've ever seen, but it was one of those where it's like, the score wasn't indicative really of what was kind of how they were moving the ball and everything. And for me, I mean, you watch Sam Darnold. Okay, whether you like him, whether you're not, whether you think he's Jets Sam Darnold, whether you think, Mr. Mono, whether you think he's the Vikings last year before he crapped out, whether you think he's susceptible to crapping out at any moment. And when I say crapping out, by the way, anyone that doesn't know, I'm talking about like dice, craps, like crapping out, rolling a 7, is that if someone asked me about that, he's like, why do you always say people are crapping out? Like, why do you say it? I'm like, oh, I'm talking about craps. But it comes down whether you pressure him and whether he feels pressure or feels discombobulated, because that's where you get Sam spiraling. Like, Sam spiraling is a very real thing. He can create some, but when Sam is one hitch and throw, the opposing defense is dead, because that means Kubiak is cooking, and that means he's cooking and understanding what he's seeing. You see that in some games, and they just shred him. And then there's other games where it's like, oh man, there he is, there he is, just hitching up. I would say like the Panthers game, he was iffy, but when they played the Falcons, it's just like hitch, firing that ball. But I was just watching, or I was looking at the stats. So there's 36 quarterbacks this year with 200 or more attempts. When not pressured, Sam Darnold, 8th in EPA per dropback, 7th in success rate, 3 fumbles, 20th in batted ball rate, which is relevant, 22nd in interception rate, 1st in net yards per attempt, 9.4. When he's pressured, 6th in success rate. So actually, which kind of surprised me amongst all quarterbacks, but 26th in the EPA per dropback. And why is that? Because he's dead last, or I'm sorry, 32nd out of 36 in interception rate. He has 8 fumbles as well. His net yards per attempt goes to 5.2, which is still 11th, but that's different than 9.4, which is 1st. But he also has the highest amount of passes batted down when he's pressured. And that makes sense how he throws. He's always that kind of quarter tick late. He has kind of his throwing style is very, it's quick, but it's got an extra little, I don't want to say hitch because that's not the right term I'm looking for. He's got a little extra something on his release because of how he uses his elbow. I can talk a lot about QB throwing styles and everything, why Trevor has this issue as well. Caleb Williams can kind of roll into this as well. It's just how they throw. They're more line drive throwers, and how they use their elbow kind of lowers the trajectory, and guys can get their hands up, and it adds like a little quarter second. If you have juice on your arm, it doesn't really matter, but it leads to more balls batted down. But anyways, against pressure, he has the highest rate of balls batted down. The problem, the 49ers are dead last in sack rate, 30th in knockdown rate, 30th in pressure rate. They're one of the worst teams against QB scrambles. And again, when I rewatched that game last game, or the Week 18 matchup, Seahawks had a way better performance than I thought maybe in real time. Because we watch those games and go right into the show. And sometimes it's a little harder. It's like you remember a couple plays and we just, okay, when we talk about them. But watching that back, it was like, oh, okay, no, you were hitting some chunk plays. Jason got after them. Like, they have a lot more answers. And again, I think the run game is improving because I think you also can run on this defense as well, what the Eagles just did last week. So, yes, it's Sam Darnold. And I know this is the craziest thing and people will blow their mind, but Sam Darnold is a better matchup against this defense than Jalen Hurts is because Jalen Hurts isn't going to threaten this defense how you're supposed to threaten them. And I know that sounds crazy, but yeah. Starting last little stat I have this. Sam Darnold, after he takes a sack, his air yards is 2. What were you say?
I was going to say, people are going to call you crazy for saying that about like the 30th ranked defense in the NFL, but it's true,
I mean, we all watched it, right?
We all watched it.
I know we got people saying that Kevin Patullo is running the same play in a row because they don't understand how no huddle works and no huddle menu, even though they played NFL linebacker for a few years, which just shows you how much people know playbooks. But that is a fine offensive game plan. I don't know. The run game looked good. I don't know. If you're a quarterback that throws deep balls and runs and you don't throw a deep ball and you don't run in a game, why am I paying you? That's how I look at it in the playoffs. That's how I looked at Hurts' performance. But anyways, Darnold does throw deep, does scramble. I just found one last little funny stat was when Sam Darnold takes a sack, the next play that he passes on, his air yards is 2.6. It's because he usually takes another sack or they run a screen. So if you get a sack, you can just that's a drive ender for the Seahawks. So, but you're going against a team that's dead last in sack rate. So it's like, maybe they blitz more, but Saleh doesn't really do that. I don't know. It's a tough matchup, even if the Seahawks offense isn't perfect. All right. Predictions. Seahawks are a touchdown favorite. Who are you going with, Chuck?
Yeah, I think the Seahawks win by more than a touchdown, honestly. I think they do.
Okay. I say Seahawks, and I think they cover as well. Shanahan's still my coach of the year. He was your coach of the year. I think last week's performance is just like, geez, man, you guys did some good stuff. But I'm more excited about the 2027 or 2026 49ers than maybe kind of how this year ends. I like you said, you talked about the defense. Their young players are really cool. Like the safeties are pretty interesting. You mentioned Stout, aka Taz, the wrestler. I don't know if you know Taz is. Taz is about 5'5". He was known as the human suplex machine.
That one I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah, he was an ECW guy, came to WWE. He does a lot of commentary now for AEW, but he was known as the human suplex machine, and he's about 5'4". So that's a perfect for Upton Stout. I loved it. He's a little sawed off, suplex machine, but I'm going with the Seahawks as well. Now moving on to Sunday, 3 Eastern start. Noon Pacific start, which feels like my childhood as someone that grew up Central Time. Noon start. That feels right for me. I love a good noon start. So we got the Texans, the 5 seed, at the Patriots, the 2 seed. The Patriots are a field goal favorite, 3 points. The over-under is 40.5. Not very high. We're going to start with when the Texans have the ball against this Patriots defense. Chuck, the Texans run game got rolling. CJ Stroud had about 20 fumbles, but still had some brilliant throws in my review of the game. What do you think going against this Patriots defense that put together a great performance against the Chargers?
It's tough because I don't think that this is not still like the strongest versus the strongest stuff you've seen in terms of the Patriots defense versus Texans offense. As much as the Texans offense improved, you're still looking at on their good days, they can be solid, and I thought that last week was a solid start for them. Against Pittsburgh, especially in the second half, once that game started getting rolling, and it's not even the Patriots defense, they'll have their moments. It's not like it's overwhelmingly talented. And last week for the Chargers, man, it was just I don't read what people say on the internet anymore about hot takes about quarterbacks and stuff like that. It's not interesting to me, but I imagine the reaction to Justin Herbert losing another game was not very favorable for him. But the reality is, You know how easy it is to get sacks on offensive line that's down like 3 offensive tackles, and you're playing guys who were like you wouldn't even want them on your preseason roster. You know how easy it is to do that. That's not quite what this is this week for the Patriots defense. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to get pressure. You know, when you have like 4 or 5 turnstiles out there, and you know the Chargers have games where they're giving up a 70% pressure rate, and it's all like quick pressures. No, like that's fake. Like that's so bad that it's fake, and the fact that they're even in the playoffs is borderline reprehensible for the rest of the AFC, that you were losing to that team that many times throughout the course of the season. But I digress. It's going to be tougher this week just because the Texans, they're not in that dire straits in the offensive line. Like this is actually a group that's improved a lot throughout the season, and they've gotten to a spot at least where they can be like a conducive, like productive producer for this offense as they're trying to get to the Super Bowl and kind of ride that defense out until the end of the year. So I think if you're the Texans game, you probably just want to just try and keep running on them, keep running on the Patriots, because the Chargers, like they even had some, like it wasn't great, but they had like a little bit of success with some Vidal runs, and obviously Herbert was able to get some scrambles going by himself. So if you can just kind of stay a little bit more like in structure than the Chargers were, there's room for this Patriots defense to be scored on that. I don't know if they're going to score 1 million points, because that's a tough task for the Texans, but like I think people should be prepared for this unit and this test to be a lot harder than where the Chargers were last weekend, because I just think people have kind of thrown away how injured that Chargers offense was. And it wasn't just the offensive line. It's Marion Hampton has been hurt. You've got guys on the outside has been hurt. Justin Herbert himself has been hurt. So this is a much stiffer challenge. And I'm going to sound like a hater on this, but last week it kind of reminded me of like some of the success the Patriots have had, or some of the success the Patriots have been able to ride this season, where it's not always like the toughest opponents. And, but you only get to play who's in front of you. You move on to the next round. And this week, you got something a little bit more difficult showing up, especially if Houston's defense, shows up in the way that I think is really possible for them.
Yeah, I should have also said that Nico Collins is dealing with a concussion. It seems like he's going to miss. He has a history of those. It's kind of becoming a thing with him. Christian Gonzalez also dealing with concussion, the corner for the Patriots, the very good corner for the Patriots. I think that's interesting because I was curious. Also, Robert Spillane came out after, Robert Spillane had a really nice game when I reviewed it, he came out after going like, oh, Chargers players came up to me and said, we had no idea what you're doing. And so I was like, man, I didn't feel like that when I was watching that game. All right. So I watched it all 22. I'm like, what were they talking about? It was all quarters, like man, cover 3. I was like, I don't know. That's not that very confusing. Like not confusing. There's a couple blitzes that got him, like some interior blitzes, but that was more just like the right guard was god awful for the Chargers. And just missing stuff left and right, just letting guys run free all the time and adding on with blitzes and everything. I think the Texans offense has been much better. The O-line's been much better. They've been running the ball much better. Look at how they played the Steelers. First down, they're dominating. I think that I'll talk about that in a sec. But I think protection-wise, what's been a weakness for them this year was their running backs and Ed Ingram a little bit, their right guard as well, and their center Jake Andrews. So where are those guys located? Center, right guard, running back. You know who kind of gets discombobulated like most quarterbacks with interior pressure? Stroud, who I do really like and do think he had a nice game. Patriots got this guy back named Milton Williams. And it was one of those where I watched him. I'm like, oh yeah, I like you. Oh yeah, you're really good. Oh yeah, you cost $30 million a year and you're worth every single penny. So Milton Williams and Christian Barmore were in there. They match up very well against Andrews and Ed Ingram. And potentially if you bring a blitz look like they did last week, Woody Marks is pretty good in protection. He's still a rookie. You get away from Woody Marks, no one else can protect on this Texans offense or Texans running back room. Like Nick Chubb, that's been one of his weaknesses since college and in pros. His eyes are bad on it. It used to be that he was so good, didn't matter, but now it matters. When you're a role player, it does matter. And I looked in run game wise, I know I was just talking protections. When Barmore and Milton Williams are on the field, the Patriots rank second in explosive runs allowed, second in a good way, 2.8%. The Seahawks are the only team better, which is, again, what we talked about with the Seahawks defense just being, orcs, goblins. It looks like Sauron's army out there. And then about middle of the pack rushing success rate. I do agree with you that I think the Patriots defense is gettable. I think they're also kind of predictable in some senses. First and second down, more zone. Third down, more man. You can run on them on third down if you get creative. I thought the Texans did a great job of staying ahead of the chains last week against the Steelers. I think, if you could do that in theory, that's great, but we'll see if they are able to execute that. And I was looking, because I have been saying this all year, I think the Patriots should run more man coverage on passing downs. Gonzalez is better in man coverage, and Carl Davis is better in man coverage, and I think they're better pressing. So true lock on, let's get gritty, use our length, let's use our physicality. You know who's good against man? Freaking Stroud. Stroud's thrown 14 touchdowns against man this year, 1 pick. He has a 48% success rate, which ranks 8th. And so that's like another one of these things. Do the Patriots want to try and heat him up? Do they want to dare Nico, now that Nico Collins is out, that, Christian Kirk or Higgins or Jalen Noel, one of these other guys steps up? We'll see. But I do think it's like kind of two imperfect units that have strengths and have improved and have in some aspects kind of going against each other. So it feels very game planny. Feels very much like the matchups that you do or the opportunities you do get, you have to hit them. Stroud has a tendency to, when he's pressing, to really get into launch mode, which can turn out great. Yeah. But this is a defense that's kind of going to dare you to do that and maybe try and take advantage of that and try and be opportunistic against that. So I think I don't have a definitive statement on this matchup. I'm really, it's more of like a curiosity thing. Like, oh, how are you guys going to go about this? I think both units going against it. The Texans like to use jumbo offensive linemen. But the Patriots got some beef and they can handle that a little bit. So yeah, again, I think I'm fair in saying average units that have some qualities, but also have some negatives to it going against each other. So yeah, any kind of closing thoughts on the side? But that's fine. Yeah,
they're fine. Yeah,
yeah. Oh, Gonzalez though, if he does play, I did have a stat about him. He's played 131 snaps of man coverage this year. He's been targeted 31 times. He's allowed 13 catches, a 41.9% completion rate. He has a 71% success rate defensively. So that's a 29% offensive success rate. Second best among all corners in the NFL. Second fewest EPA allowed. And you want to know who's first? He's an Atlanta Falcon, and he's not AJ Terrell.
What? Is it D. Alford? No, that can't be right.
No.
No,
it's not who you're going to be thinking. You're going to be like, really?
I don't remember who the other quarterbacks are.
It's Hughes, isn't it? Mike Hughes.
Oh,
Mike
God.
Hughes was it's because they didn't. The sample size isn't as big. That's really what it is. It's like not because they run so much zone goofy on the back end. So that's why, really, what it is. That's why you got to watch. You got to watch how they get to these spots. But this is one of those stats. It's like when PS2 is up there. It's like, yeah, these stats match the eye test. Quinion Mitchell, it's like that's exactly how they look like they're playing. But let's get to the other side of the ball, which I think is going to be pretty cool. Patriots offense, Texans defense. I mean, obviously Drake May, but that Patriots run game, again, has just gotten better and better and better in the second half of the year. And I am safe to say it's an above average run game. I would say above average run game now, which plenty that it's not a true weakness where I can use it as an MVP argument. But I do think this run game has gotten a lot better for the Pats going against, just watch the Texans defense. I don't think I have to list a stat about how freaking good they are on defense, but a very, very amazing unit that the Texans defense have. But what's catching your eye on this side of the ball, Chuck?
I'm going to bring back our classic terms, blue chipped, because I think that's what's about to happen to the Patriots in this game. You got Drake May. Okay, that's a nice start. Okay, what's next? What's next? Your tackle, your offensive line is going to get railroaded in this game. you're going to get railroaded in this game. The Texans DBs are a lot more talented than your wide receivers, and you want to start for the people who use like schedule as a criticism for Drake May not winning the MVP, I think is stupid. But to use it as an argument as for this team is really not actually that good, I think is very fair. Because like over the back half of the season, you got 2 games against the Jets, 1 game against the Dolphins in Week 18, which was a Quinn Ewers game. Ravens, I'll give you. You lost to the Bills 35-31, had a game against the Giants in there, a game against Tampa Bay, and then a game against the Bengals. Like that is... If you have an MVP level quarterback, you should be winning those games, which they did. You know, they went 7-1 in that stretch, but that's guppy ball, man. This is the big boys. This is the big league. Like, okay, you had fun last week with the Chargers, and you know they're half their team is built like that the picture of SpongeBob where the guy's all wrapped up in the wheelchair and he can't move, he can't do anything, and he's scamming. That's what that Chargers team is. This is the big boys on the block. You got Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, Derek Stingley, and a bunch of guys who are also like. Those guys are like Hall of Fame level players. And then they have Pro Bowl level players. And then they have regular starter good level players underneath that. It's 3 levels of good against a team that was picking top 5 like less than a year ago. So
and you're not knocking it. This is just the reality.
I'm not knocking it.
It's just the reality.
It's just the reality.
Yeah, that's it.
If Drake May can pull off this and like actually go hero mode against this defense when like again, I'm not saying this as a slight. I'm saying I say like the top 5 pick part to put in perspective of like the Texans, they were at this spot where the Patriots are like 3 or 4 years ago. And when you hit all your development arcs, this is what your defense looks like. It looks like, you know, a Madden defense where all the X factors are there and you're bored and you want to start over. But you actually have to like grapple with the idea that I don't know if these guys for the Patriots that we've been saying, you know, aren't all that good all season are just going to step up to the task and say, you know, actually we're going to lock down the best defense in football. And it's not just like the best defense in football. It's one that like the individual talents of the players that kind of ignite everything, where there's not many one-on-one matchups throughout the whole defense that you really feel bad about if you're Houston. On top of that, D'Amico Ryans is doing a great job coordinating it. So, you know, if we're going to say the Patriots are a year ahead of schedule, I don't think it's so crazy to say that they could get absolutely stomped in the mouth on this game by a team that's been building this thing up for 3 or 4 years now, and they have the best pass rush duo in the league, and they have an incredible secondary on the back end. I just look at him like, if Drake May can actually pull the heroics to win this game and be talented enough to say, hey, Kayshon Boutte, you're going to go down and you're going to beat Derek Stingley in man-on-man coverage down the field. And when I throw you the ball, you're going to be open and it's going to be right on time. Then we should give him the Hall of Fame. Like, we should put him in the Hall of Fame like right now. Like, screw this MVP stuff. Like, we need to put him in the Hall of Fame if he can pull out this game with this supporting cast, because as productive as he's been, still a long way to go talent-wise. You can make so many improvements talent-wise on this offense. Can't really say the same for Houston, so good luck. Good luck.
I mean, what you're saying about like future Hall of Famers plus all pros, Pro Bowlers, all that, you're not exaggerating. Like, Stingley and Lassiter are both Pro Bowl plus players. You know, could be all pro, depending how you looked at it. Bollock, the safety, very good starter. Jalen Petrie, all pro quality, all football 301 member, but all pro quality slot, who statistically is like, I mean, eye test just watching him, he's just clotheslining people, but even just statistically, he's one of the best slots in the game, coverage and run game wise. Aziz Al-Shaair, I would have, if I actually didn't do a public all pro team. Now that I think about it, he would have been an all pro linebacker. I think second team, just off the top of my head. Henry To'oTo'o would be the one guy that's like, okay, this guy isn't a good starter, but the thing is, he's gotten better and he has a role in this defense. He's a run filler. They use him as a blitzer sometimes. Like, he's kind of just, they have a defined role in this. But when you have 10 other plus starters or 9 other plus starters, you can have that. Will Anderson, of course, Daniil Hunter. I think you can, and the interior guys too, Tonga and Sheldon Rankins and stuff. You can run on them a little bit. Isn't it? Yeah, I know. You love that because it's just like his different, like how he morphed himself, right? like just as a player.
He was like one of my favorite like DT tackle or DT prospects, and then his knees just got all shredded in New Orleans. Yeah. Like he had like an 8 sack season. He's really starting to break out, and knees got all messed up. So I thought he was cooked, and the fact that he's still here, almost 10 years later, still playing in a different way with like super duper productive it's kind of ridiculous. I don't know what they're feeding those boys down in Houston, but maybe we should investigate a few years down the road after we're done watching them and having fun with
that. They're feeding them down there. It's that must be they got some Vietnamese cuisine down there that's supposed to be really good. I think maybe that's why I'll leave it at. When I look at this game, and I hate how this sounds, because this is kind of like what a lot of national analysts or analysis kind of comes down to. It really comes down to how May plays and how the passing game plays. Like, it really does. You just talked about it. Like, that's how I've been thinking. It's like, I just even looking ahead about discussions I'll have to have this offseason, like how high I would have May. But I mean, if he does this, it's like, I don't know what arguments you have anymore against him being like a top 5 guy locked in. I look at this Texans team, and some people have brought it up about like how they have so many terrors on this defense. They can be kind of simplistic. It's why D'Amico Ryans is kind of the most true to the Legion of Boom philosophy than any other kind of coordinator right now. Saleh a little bit as well, but like that came from the same place, San Fran, which had a lot of Legion of Boom bones to it and past and resumes to it from the Seahawks. They only run a couple coverages, they only rush 4, and they just beat the crap out of you. And you kind of know what you're going to get, like as a quarterback, but you have to beat it. Like, you can say, oh yeah, they're playing man. All right, my receivers have to win. And to me, and also there's splits with this Texans defense. On early downs, they run a lot of cover 3, a lot of cover 4, and a little bit of cover 6, and a little bit of cover 2. But a lot of zone, I think, is more or less what I could say. They blitz about the same on every down. And on late downs, it's a bunch of man. Almost 40% of the time, man coverage, one of the highest rates, and then a little bit of cover, or a good chunk of cover 3. So to me, if I was just a quarterback, okay, single high. And 3 match coverages like kind of play out like man. There's some leverage differences, but just kind of, I can again go down that for an hour and explain that stuff, but just ballpark. Okay, single high, more or less, I'm getting man on the outside. There's some stuff in the middle that changes. And so I looked like, how does May attack cover 3? How does he attack cover 1, especially on late downs? Well, he's first in EPA per dropback against cover 3 and cover 1. 0.53 EPA per dropback against cover 1 and cover 3 on late downs this year. He has a 25% explosive dropback rate. That's first. 57% success rate. That's first. 10.9 net yards per attempt. That's first. And then on top of it, just because Drake May is such a baller, and this is why I love him so much, he has 8 scrambles. 7 of them have gone for first downs. The target share typically goes to Pop Douglas, of all people, and then Kyle Williams, and then Diggs. Diggs is going to get peppered throughout this game, especially on first and second down. It's going to be a big Diggs game. But third down, in the weirdest way, might be the way you attack the Texans defense, which sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes this is how you have to go about it. My dad's Vikings offenses, they have this guy named Randy Moss. And this is how they would sucker in a lot of defenses, is that, okay, it's 3rd and 9. We'll wad it up, and we're just going to run Randy Moss and this other guy named Kelly Campbell, who ran like a 4.28. And we're just going to run them down the field and then have Dante Culpepper throw it 70 yards. And that was really, it was just like, all right, you guys want to keep a cap on the or on the offense? We'll just beat you over the top. And that's what the Texans, that's one way. It's an extremely good defense. And run game wise, it's hard sledding. And I think the run game will be boom bust. But I was looking, deep passes, you can kind of get this defense. And if you ever seen like Derek Stingley have maybe a bad play, it's always stuff over the top. Even Drake May's first career touchdown to Kayshon Boutte was a go ball to Boutte against Derek Stingley, where he just beats him over the top. It's because Stingley's so aggressive and he keeps his eyes into the backfield, and how he plays leverage and how he plays technique, his butt can go to the receiver and he kind of loses them for a sec. He thinks, oh, I can recover in time by the time the quarterback sees it, but some quarterbacks test it. And I looked it up. Passes of 20 or more air yards this year, 8th in success rate, so that kind of ruins my point, but 18th in EPA per play, 45th percentile. And they're kind of middle of the pack in other kind of like stats against receivers, against the slot, all that stuff. Under 20 air yards, they're first in EPA per play and first in success rate. And again, this is how playoffs are. It's any little weakness you got, just try and get it. And you got a quarterback in Drake May that is willing and able to unpin the grenade, especially if he gets single high, and especially if he like knows that. So I think that's what it's going to come down to, is maybe some deep balls on third down, which May loves to do. I think that's just going to be really fascinating, really fun to watch. So Diggs early downs, maybe some deep balls to Pop Douglas and some other guys on late downs.
Yeah, that reminds me of the Hail Mary that I had for the Chiefs-Texans game, where it's like, hey, sometimes the chaos and the pressure gets so crazy that the quarterback has time and things break down the back end. You can hit some big plays. And they almost got one. One, or maybe it was two. But the rest of the time,
you remember your Hail Marys so much.
Because I was watching, I was like, oh my God, like it was so specific. I was like, under pressure, he's going to hit a 50-yard pass.
Yep, I remember this.
He got close, got so close. But I said to say, the rest of the time, man, he was running for his damn life out there. It's like the one or two or three like instances that you have where there's like you get cut loose, you have someone in the back, and like you have to hit it, because the rest of the time, bro, like when Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson on the field together, it's about 50% pressure rate. That's insane. Half your dropbacks, and that's like against like average offensive lines. Half your dropbacks. This is not an average offensive line, like especially for these two guys. Like these two guys, like should have no problem handling this, and that's where I get a little concerned. I just think like the talent difference in the spots where it matters. It's like, oh man, like in a playoff scenario, one-on-one, Will Anderson, Neil Hunter against, Will Campbell and the gang. It's gonna be tough. Like I would just overload the right side and just crush them, because I don't think that, and like anyone like not named Will Campbell is really a threat to block these guys.
And last week, even the Chargers got him with some games.
Tuli had a great game last week.
Yes, he did. And it was, I like him. Wilson at left guard, Georgia guy. I do like him. Like he's going to be a good starter, and he's had real good moments. Those can get him like games and kind of get him. That's what that's what these teams look at. And the Texans, this is how they live. They rush for and they run all these games. They're trying to get you. And so, it's going to come down to some grenades from May. Like, it's Superman May, and then some peppering of Stephon Diggs on early downs. But that's the thing. Jalen Petry's really good in slot. So it's like, that's not even the cleanest answer. So kind of, that's why it's maybe the best way to put it. It is. That's fun though.
Because May's so good that you're like, maybe he can do it though. Maybe he can do it.
Yeah. It's not, there's a non-zero chance. It's going to come down. I think maybe the best way, my too long didn't read, is like, it's boom bust for the Patriots. It's going to come down to Henderson, Steven, and Rajay Stevenson, big plays in the run game. Maybe you get Tuotoa and Alshir again sniffing up too much, and you get a duo run that goes long, and Drake May making plays. Like that's really what it comes down to, and that's what the playoffs are, especially when you got kind of like a disadvantage with some of your matchups. All right, final predictions. Pats are 3-point favorites at home.
I think it's going to be a close one. I'm not expecting the Texans to blow them out, but I did pick them to win. Just kind of a little bit of a slugfest. And then the Texans defense, Texans offense, Pats defense, that's not going to be like the most exciting parts of the game, but it's about where maybe they were lined up a little bit more evenly, just player for player. So maybe that's where it becomes a little bit more important. So I'm still going to take the Texans just in a maybe 4 or 5 point win on the road.
When I did my original bracket, I had the Texans winning this. I'm going to switch though to the Patriots. But I don't think they cover. I think it's a very tight game. Last second, I know it's only 3 points, but I really do think it's tight. This one could go either way. It's gonna be pretty fun. But I'm gonna go with the Patriots. I like their defense enough to kind of turn it in. Yeah, maybe the offense is boom bust, but they have a quarterback that can get those booms. So maybe that's kind of how I just look at it. Maybe it's just the Riley Leonard film doing too much for me in week 18. Drake May is just a cranked up version of that. So maybe, I don't know. But we're going to take that last break, and we'll come back with Rams, Bears. That'll close us out on Sunday night. All right, see you guys in a second. All right, we are back. We got the 5-seed Rams traveling to Chicago to Soldier Field. This one will cap off divisional weekend. Can't wait. This is 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 West Coast time. That's going to be awesome. Yeah, we'll be able to recap these games at a decent time. All right, the Rams are 3.5-point favorites on the road. The over-under in this game is 48.5. I think the weather is going to be pretty chilly and windy. It's Chicago in January. It should not surprise anybody. Also, the Bears are getting back their national anthem guy for this game, which is a big deal. I forget his name. Jim Cornelison. Oh. If you see him, you know him.
Sure.
Big opera guy.
Could be anything.
And he goes, "The flag is still there," and the crowd goes nuts. It's one of those things I didn't know about. So my dad was with the Bears. And I was like, "Oh, this actually rocks." He does blackout games, other stuff. But anyways, we'll start with the Rams have the ball against this Bears defense. Kevin Dotson is back for the Rams, which is a big, big deal. But what you thinking on this side of the ball, Chuck?
Oof. If Matthew Stafford can get through one of these games that he's played recently without getting dinged up, because that seems to be like when things start to break down for them. Like the Seahawks game, they were cruising, and then he got banged up. The Panthers game last weekend, they were cruising, and then he got banged up, and then Puka had that insane drop that you never see him drop ever, and it got a little wacky. But like even in that game, like they still could score 40 points, like. Fairly like you not like without the exerting a whole lot that we haven't seen from them before, and I think that this could go the same way. I mean, this offense is so good, and the Bears defense, I mean, they've struggled recently, and I think that getting Dotson back is huge because you already had an advantage over the Bears defensive line with your offensive talent, almost like inherently. They just like some of the defensive tackle moves they've made over the past couple of years, whether it's free agent signings or draft picks, haven't worked out, and I think it's really showing in a big way, like especially against the run. Over the back half of the season, 28th in rushing success rate of the Bears defense, 28th in rushes for 5 yards and more. They're dead last since week 10 in yards before contact at almost 2.1 yards before contact per rush. In the NFL,
I was bringing up the Broncos defense, going like, these are teams that got above 1.
yeah. Over this is 9 games of football, so this is like a real sample size. 2.06 yards before contact for the Bears rushing defense. The Rams are number 1 on offense at 2.22 yards before contact in the same time frame when their rushing offense has really taken off. So, like, this is the Hydra Bomb versus Coughing Baby matchup of this game. And also, I think it was, I keep it mixed up. It was early down and laid down for the Bears. Oh, yeah, the Bears early down pass defense, also horrendous. They're bottom 8 in EPA per play. They're 30th in success rate, while the Rams are at worst top 4 in like most major efficiency stats that you care about in early down passing. So run game is major advantage Rams. Early down passing is major advantage Rams. That usually spells we're about to score 40 points in a pretty easy manner. Like I know the Bears, like they've had some nice third down numbers this year. They've had some nice moments, but that's always just going to be flimsy game to game. There's so few third down plays compared to everything else that those can be, will fluctuate wildly. And 2, you're going to need to get to third down in this game because that might be tough for you. If the run game is blowing you up and the early down passing game is blowing you up, you might be looking at a whole bunch of 3rd and 2s, which are a lot harder to get interceptions on than, a 3rd and 13. So I started to dive into is there anything the Bears can, I didn't really find any compelling angle.
Turnovers,
whether
that's it. And that's
just turnovers, which I'm like, okay, turnovers, fine. I can't predict if that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So good luck. The most high leverage of high leverage plays, if you can convert those, you have a chance. But this is the demolition machine, man.
Pray that you get them in 3rd and long. That's really, but it's 11 personnel runs. Oh, the Rams got a huge advantage. Okay, and then now they run 13 personnel, more than anyone has in history with 3 tight ends. And I was like, all right, if I had to guess, the Bears are going to stink at that. And they do. They stink at defending that. It's 20 Bears defense versus 2 or fewer receivers this year. 28th in running back rushing success rate allowed. 24th in explosive design runs allowed. Pretty good against the pass, but if teams just run it, they'll just run it. Wide change. And you're going against the Rams offense that quite literally has the best running back rushing success rate in the new millennium. There's no other caveats there. There's no other, another filters there. Running back rushing success rate, highest number we have seen since the year 2000. Like that's how good this run game is. So if you're not going to force them, like if you're not going to create it, make it havoc or anything like that, it's just tough. And especially if Dotson's back. Like if the backup guard was in there, I'd be like, okay, maybe this and that. Like our friend Seth Galina had some great stats. With Dotson on the field this year, the Rams run game would be 4.8 yards per carry, 52% success rate. Without Dotson, it's 4 yards per carry, which is 19th, and still a 43% success rate, which would rank third. So they just go from historical to like a normal season third. I think that's the best way to put it. The Bears run defense, you brought the yards before contact, and I would even say throwing the ball. The number one thing that's gotten this Bears defense over and over, and this kind of Dennis Allen, because he'll do man, because when he does the blitz and funky looks, the leverage you can get, they're terrible guarding the slot. You saw it last week. Jane Reed got him. I mean, shoot, even Kirk Herbstreit was going like, oh, they're targeting this Kyler Gordon guy a bunch. Like, we probably learned his name the week before or 2 days before. But slot targets for both teams, Rams offense versus the Bears defense. The Bears, 30th in EPA versus slot targets, 30th in yards per attempt, air yards per attempt, 26 explosive passes, 29th in EPA, 30th in yards per play. They average 9 yards allowed per slot target, 29th in total yards per game. They allow almost 85 yards per game to slot targets. I don't know if you guys know this, anyone listening, but so even if they don't go tight ends and they go 11 personnel, Puka Nacua is like the best power slot in the NFL. And he is Amon-Ra St. Brown is giving this defense nightmares in 2 matchups. And then Puka is like a jumbo version of Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's just, it's a tough matchup for the Bears defense. I respect Dennis Allen. They just do not have a ton of horses, and they're going against an offense that, like you said, unless Stafford gets banged up, Evero did some funky stuff with some green dog pressures. Maybe that's the answer for them, was man coverage and then adding on with blitzes and heating up Stafford. We'll see. But it's just like the Rams offense has a lot of natural answers against this defense. Let's go to the other side of the ball. The Bears offense and Rams defense, and this matchup is pretty juicy. What did you think about it, Chuck, when you dove into it?
The only reason why this game is not a total wash is because the Bears, they do have opportunities to score on the Rams. The Rams defense, it's kind of like a similar conundrum that Brian Flores has existed in over the past few years with the Vikings, where it's like we can construct a good defense eventually out of this, but it's not talent-wise anything that you're really afraid of.
Not there yet.
Shoot, I'm not trying not to sound like a hater, but I watched Nate Landman for the Falcons last year. They weren't exactly crying when that walked out the door. And Emmanuel Forbes is a former first-round bust.
Shredded last week.
Right, shredded. Right, Emmanuel Forbes is a former first-round bust for the Commanders. Looking like a former first-round bust again. So, I think all of this is to say Chris Shula has done a great job here, but when you run into these moments where, man, our defense has to be, and Brian Flores, this happened. Brian Flores, with the Vikings in the playoffs last year, our defense has to be so meticulously organized, every single player, every single down, because these guys aren't really skilled enough to do a wide range of things. When you look at the Vikings defense, Josh Metellus, or how does Van Ginkel get all these interceptions on screens? Because his coaches put him in the right spot at the right time every single time. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why he followed him from Miami to Minnesota, and he's still getting the same exact interceptions on the same exact screens because his defensive coordinators put him in the right spot. It's not really a skill someone has. It's more we studied this out, and I know that's going to happen.
You mean how quarterbacks throw with anticipation?
Right. Exactly. Well, I've seen people go, how does Van Ginkel get all these screen interceptions? Because his defensive coordinator knows that they're coming, and he tells him to stand there, and intercept the ball when it's good.
And tells him to get his freaking hands up, and he can actually catch.
Right. And he listens.
So it actually becomes a pick.
And he catches the ball. Right. Yeah. Wow. Amazing stuff.
Go Badgers.
But it's so hard to win that way in the postseason, or to consistently put together good defenses in the postseason in that manner, because Like, dude, we watched Caleb Williams last week. I mean, he will be the most talented player on the field. Like when you go, player for player, Bears offense, Rams defense, and that's becoming the thing where it's not even like a slight anymore because Caleb is obviously like one of the most talented players flat out in the entire league right now. So if it's going to be so hard to keep up. It's going to be tough to keep up. And quite frankly, maybe the Rams offense is so good early downs, rushing the ball, that they could kind of sit on the ball and it just kind of slips away from you at the, after halftime. But I still like Caleb's ability to hit the explosive. We know he's going to take chances downfield. Over the back half of the season, this has been arguably the best rushing offense in the entire league. The Rams' rush defense has been, so in that time frame. I think that's where an area where you're starting to see some of the talent disparities come to fruition for them, and not just like it's not just the talent, it's the size too. Like I was talking about this before.
Oh my god, I wish I could pull the camera down and just. If anyone saw my head right now, I wrote something down. I literally wrote size because I wanted to talk about that. And you just literally, as I wrote that, you said size because yes, that's what I keep kind of focusing on. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
They're talented guys, but and if Poona Ford's your biggest defensive tackle, okay, like Poona Ford's a good player, but I mean he's 3'10". It works because he's 5'10", but still he's only like 3. Right. Yeah. But if that's like going to be one of your heaviest guys, then eventually teams are just going to start leaning on you, and I think that's where. The Bears have been better than just about anyone over the back half of the season. Like since week 10, they're third in EPA per rush, they're third in rushes that go for 0 or negative yards. The Rams are dead last in that time frame with that stat. So they're not really even getting negative plays in the rushing game. They've got below average EPA numbers. So this is kind of where like the difference for the Rams defense and why things get tight for them. I think this is where it starts to show its head. Oh, like we quite frankly, we're just small and we need better players. Like if you just want to whittle it down to that. But the problem for the Bears is that Rams offense on the other side is like perfectly set up to mash you and make life hell. But Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, they have the chance to stay in the game.
It's the four units discussion. Also, Rams special teams. Keep an eye on it. That can always be their thorn on their side. The Bears special teams ranks, I don't think it's that much better. They're 18th, but the Rams special teams has had some bad moments throughout the season, which kind of kept other teams in games. Size was everything I wanted to talk about in this segment because this might be some old coach adage in me, whatever, or philosophy. The thinking is speed wins in turf and wins in heat, wins early in the season. Size wins in the cold. Sometimes it doesn't matter because you play in domes or you play in good weather, but a lot of these teams play up north and a lot of these teams play outside for now until everyone builds a freaking dome. But size is considered the great equalizer, especially in the playoffs. This isn't just football either. Basketball has the same thinking. You've seen a lot of Sam Presti and other very smart general managers and everything talk about it. The Bears are freaking big on offense, big at O-line, and they're big in the receiver room and at tight end. Cole Kmet's big. Colson Loveland is big. Roman Dudzey is big. Even DJ Moore is like 218. Luther Burden, big. All these guys are big. And when you're going, I'm so glad you kind of touched on this because this is exactly what I wanted to talk about too, is that the Rams DBs, very small. I like Durant, small. Manuel Forbes has played well, small. The safeties are a little bit slow. They're very smart, but you can kind of beat them over the top. And if you watch these Panthers games, that's what stood out to me. The Panthers offense is not great this year, but what do they have at receiver? They got monsters at receiver, Tetero McMillan and Coker. And Coker went off last week. So it's one of these things where it's like, man, they actually match up really well. Like this is more I've marinated on. I'm like, I kind of like the Bears a little more than maybe I thought, initially. But yeah, the size and the cold. And I think that I'm watching that Panthers game, and I'm just seeing them just dominate them, dunk on them. And when I look at the Rams defense, that I agree. I think Chris Shula deserves head coaching interviews. this is not a knock on him because he is doing the best he can with a smoke and mirrors attack. Like, that's the thing, is like, that's just good coaching. Like, he probably knows where his weaknesses are, and not every team can take advantage of it, but now we're in the playoffs and there are teams and units that can take advantage of it. The thing that the Bears do, they have the run game, they have size. So I think they can kind of stay in advantageous situations. They've shown that they can run on different types of units and different types of personnel. I think a funky defense that wants to win light, put five up front, run dime a lot. They actually match up well. They can go 12 personnel. They kind of road grade them a little bit. They can go 13 personnel. This Bears offense has been going 13 personnel too, and get into like fullback looks out of it. Or they'll get into like 13 personnel and then it looks like a spread look because of the athleticism of Colson Loveland. And he has size on the corner. I don't know. There's just natural matchups that they have an advantage at. And the other thing is there's even scheme stuff, like passing wise. Caleb has gotten so much better on in-breakers. Last week it was a bunch of outbreakers, but against the Packers defense. But he's gotten so much better on in-breakers, especially off play action, especially under center. Rams have shown now, and I looked it up a few weeks ago. I didn't update this stat, but they've been like a bottom 10 team against in-breakers. And then on top of it, they're a bottom 5 team against condensed formations. Who runs the most condensed formations? The Bears. Actually, both of these offenses. But the Bears run a ton of condensed formations, tight splits from the receivers and the tight ends, motions at the snap. And the Rams rank 5th worst in success rate against condensed formations, passing-wise. They allow us 52% success rate, according to Next Gen Stats. The only defenses worse are the Jets, the Dolphins, the Bears, so speaking about the Rams running condensed formations and in-breakers, and then the Cowboys. And they've given up, I think, the 6th worst EPA and a ton of first downs. That's natural answers for the Bears. I think the Bears are going to be able to turn it on them. I think this is going to be a total shootout, even with the weather. Yeah. Am I going to say it's a full over? No, but I think both offenses are going to get their way. Even if the Rams defense has had a lot of statistical highs, just think there's a lot of natural things that the Bears have. And Caleb is cooking right now. Set the record for most explosives in a quarter in the playoffs last week, tied the record for most in the half. Like, this offense is going to have answers against this defense. And I think they just have natural physical advantages, and scheme wise, I think they'll figure some stuff out. So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious what your prediction is. I think I know what it is, but final predictions for this game.
It's going to be fun. We got 2 quarterbacks who can cut through the winds. As long as Stafford's back doesn't get tweaked during the game, like that it's like, because when you see, especially late season in Chicago, man, like, yeah, I hate to even rehash this at a time like this, but God damn it, the when the Browns went to Chicago and the difference in the velocity between the throws between like Caleb
they couldn't even throw the ball past 5 yards. Yeah,
right. You're like, okay, like Shador, like he can't throw it in the wind in Chicago, and then you're watching Caleb like sprinting towards the sideline and throwing it back across the body, and it's going 100 miles per hour, cutting right through. You know, Stafford can't do the run stuff anymore, but you still get the high arm talent stuff. So as long as no one gets hurt, that's going to be a good one. But I am rolling with the Rams. I take them to cover the spread. I really don't want the Bears run to end here. It's been like some of the most fun I've ever. Fun. It's been the most fun I've ever had watching the Bears in my entire life.
Agreed.
I don't want this Caleb Williams season to end. It's been a lot of fun to watch, but I think the Rams, they just have too much on offense for the Bears defense right now. Like, go buy a defensive line, man, and try again next to Chicago. You're so close.
That offense is like barely needs much. Like they got some answers even at left tackle. Like DeAndre Swift's played so much better where I'm not like, hey, run him out of town. Like you don't need to like draft Jeremiah Love in the first round. Like they are sitting real. This is such a win year. I mean, beating the Packers in the playoffs, like that's unbelievable. The last little thing, they played each other last year, Stafford and Caleb, and I remember that game vividly because it was windy. It was almost 20-mile-an-hour winds, and those two were both just, you wouldn't even felt it. They were just whipping dig routes and then breakers to like, Stafford was throwing to like Tutu Atwell that game. Tutu Atwell had 4 catches for 82 yards in the win. So yeah, that's watching last week and watching Jordan Love whip it through the air too. It's just awesome. My last little note might be a DeAndre Swift receiving game. That's the other kind of little thing that the Bears can get to. The Rams defense, not great against running back targets as well. I'm also going to go with the Rams. I like the Bears way more in this matchup than maybe I did a week ago, or a potential matchup with theirs, but I am going with the Rams. Having said that, I think the Bears cover. I think this is close. And I think there's a bunch of points. I think it's going to be a very fun game, a great way to kind of close out the weekend. So I am going with the Rams, just kind of my brain. My heart is screaming Bears right now. I just want everyone to know that. My heart is screaming Bears, but I'm sticking with the Rams, who I did pick to win the Super Bowl and everything. So, but it's like, yeah, my heart, my gut is just going, say Bears, but I'm going to go with the Rams here. I think this is going to be a very, very fun game. I'm excited for this one. But we're going to wrap up the show with Hail Marys. Hail Marys is where we throw up a prayer of a prediction. I've got 2 this season. Chuck has 3. Came very close. The Panthers kept it close. I thought the Rams would blow them out. But again, talking about the size stuff. And then you had Aaron Rodgers, time to throw. It was 2.98 seconds. But he had the worst. Again, he had the worst game since 2013 in the playoffs by a quarterback in terms of EPA, in terms of success rate. So you had that going for you, I guess. But Chuck, what's your Hail Mary for the divisional round?
All right, we're sticking with the themes of riding hot defenses in the playoffs. And my Hail Mary, and this might sound blasphemous, the 49ers will score fewer points than they did last time against the Seahawks in a loss this weekend. So 2 or fewer.
So it's a safety or a skunk?
2 or 0. Yeah, that's what I'm predicting. 49ers, fewer points than 3. Because I watched that game again, and I was like, whoa, y'all got your ass kicked. And that defense has been resting since that game. You went to Philadelphia and fought, and you have to fly back across the country to fight again. Yeah, good luck. So that's my Hail Mary. 0 points for the 49ers at Seattle. Yeah.
All right, I'm in the same game. I'm on the other side of the ball. I said Sam Darnold will go for 250 yards or more passing, which is plus money if you look on BetMGM, and he scores 3 total touchdowns. I was going to say 3 passing, but he might run one in. I don't know. Darnold's been due for some design runs or for rushing touchdowns, so I'm going to throw that one. 49ers fans are like, what the hell? It's like, hey, Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh deserve all the flowers for what they've done this season, but this is just what the playoffs become. It's like, yeah, anything can happen in football. Any given Sunday, any given Saturday, any given Thursday, Friday, Monday, whatever it is now, anything can happen. I get that. Shanahan's amazing, but just looking at all this, I do think the Seahawks kind of have their number in this game. Chuck, that was a blast. That was a blast. Great previewing this with you. I'll be back on Sunday to react to all this after that game. So after about 6:30ish West Coast time, 9:30ish East Coast time, somewhere around there, to recap all these games. So make sure to come hang out for that. I'm Nate Tice. You can find me at Nate_Tice. That's Charles McDonald. You can find him at 4Verts on Blue Sky. Subscribe to us, follow us, rate us 5 stars wherever you get your podcast. Pretty please leave us some reviews, leave us some comments. All that stuff is great. So I really appreciate the people that do that. Watch us on YouTube, on the Yahoo Sports YouTube channel, like some of you do. And I appreciate it. That's where you can watch the live shows as well. So make sure to check that out. Thanks to Stone, awesome massive behind the scenes, for making us look and sound good. Thank you all for listening. Have a great weekend. See you guys Sunday.